The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Wednesday, October 25th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. You could join the conversation, as always, 857-600-0518. Thanks to all of our newest patrons who are making this possible. Definitely can't do it without you. Become a patron, right? There's no pretense, nothing. Let's just go to patreon.com/the BPD show. Become a patron. Support the Benjamin Dixon Show. Let's jump into some polling that just came out from Fox News. I see someone made a comment in the comment section already on Twitter saying that the polls are BS. Well, I mean, in general, I would agree that Fox News polls are BS because a lot of their polling is not scientific. Most of the polls that they run on their shows are BS polls. But they do have a department that is they actually run legitimate polling. And this is where it's coming from. The latest poll from Fox News says that the question that was polled is Trump's administration's response to recent hurricanes. His approval rating is, just for the hurricane alone, is 64% think that he did a poor or a fair job in Puerto Rico, 47% and 45% in Florida and in Houston. But he's also polling at some seriously low numbers in terms of his job approval rating. Job approval rating alone, he has a 57% disapproval rating compared to 53% in September, 55% in August. 38% of Americans approve of what Donald Trump is doing. And that's kind of where I want to hone in this afternoon, is to focus on that 38% who still support Donald Trump despite all of the evidence that shows that he is the worst president that we've had in modern history by almost every measure, every metric. He is the worst president that we've had in modern American history. You know, something to be said about that, right? It's one thing to be ambitious and want to become the president. It's another thing to become the president and then go down as the worst president in history. That's truly an achievement that I think he should be proud of, that he's going down as the worst president in history. But not just for, political my team against your team kind of thing, right? So that's a very basic way to view this. I think that it's a very simplistic is the word. That's an overly simplistic way of viewing this. There's some things that he's doing that are causing him to get this type of approval rating. And one of the things that he did today that is ridiculous, that I feel like we shouldn't even have to talk about, but we have to talk about because he's the president of the United States and he's demonstrating exactly how utterly ridiculous of a person he is. I want to play an audio clip, if I can pull that clip up, of Donald Trump today, still doubling down on this Sergeant LaDavid Johnson issue. And it seems utterly ridiculous because it is, right? Before I even play the clip, this should not be a story. This should be a non-story. This should be something that died last week. And President Trump had every ability to make this thing disappear last week. He had every ability to simply do the most basic thing, which is this. I did not intend to hurt the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson, but my words did. And for that, I apologize. Do you know his approval ratings? If he could just say that very simplistic sentence, his approval ratings would not have gone out of the roof because he's still a moron, but his approval ratings would have not been what they are now. That I can tell you that much. So anyway, that's what he started off with this morning. I don't want to play because it's unbelievable that he's still doubling down, tripling down on this issue that should really be a non-issue. Here we go. Let's take a listen. Let's see if I can get to the play.
Lovely lady. I've never seen her. I've never met her, but she sounds like a lovely lady. But I was extremely nice to her. I was extremely courteous, as I was to everyone else. You know, it's interesting. You folks have called many people that I spoke to. Everybody has said unbelievable good things about me, but you never report that. Did you report it? Did you report it? Thank you. Tom.
What about your message to her?
I can only say this. I was really nice to her. I respect her. I respect her family. I certainly respect LaDavid, who I, by the way, called LaDavid right from the beginning. Just so you understand, they put a chart in front. LaDavid says LaDavid Johnson. So I called right from the beginning. There's no hesitation. One of the great memories of all time. There was no hesitation. I think she's a fantastic woman. I was extremely nice to her, extremely respectful.
Now, how utterly useless is that entire conversation? How completely and utterly useless is that conversation? Because all he ever had to do was say, America knows I did not try to hurt this woman. I would not call someone to try to hurt. He could have taken the moral high ground. He could have made everybody, including Frederica Wilson, look silly by simply being an adult. Not a magnanimous person, nothing special, but simply an adult, someone who has offended someone and they did not mean to offend that person. What do you do in that kind of scenario? You say, listen, I had no intention of hurting you, but apparently my words did. And for that, I apologize. Now, I have some people on Twitter. One person said, oh, you haven't heard the real call. If you heard the real call, she made a real complete 180. You left this are crazy or something to that effect. Can I tell you how ridiculous the right conservatives are? Can I tell you how utterly there's no other way to say it, but y'all are stupid as hell, man. You people on the right, let me tell you, I'm dealing with some Democrats right now that I think are ignorant. Right. I think they're extremely ignorant, and we'll talk about it because it ties into the RussiaGate and the black community. We'll talk about that because it's ridiculous, it's insidious, and it shows a level of ignorance that I'm ashamed of actually exists on this side of the Republican Party. But you conservatives have to be some of the most ignorant morons I've ever heard and seen in my life. Because, number one, this is how desperate they are to protect Führer Hitler. I mean, oops, slip. Trump. They are so eager to protect them that they actually did two things. One, they made a fake Facebook post allegedly from Maisha Johnson, right? They made a fake Facebook post of Maisha Johnson, allegedly of Maisha Johnson attacking Frederica Wilson. And they spread that around and became super viral, and everyone had to start investigating. Turn out it's a fake account. This is childish, ridiculous. I mean, I don't even have the words to actually describe because I'm trying not to use profanity, but that's the extent to which they will go to protect their dear leader, right? They would forge this. And then there is a video. This is the other thing. They don't know black people. All black people look alike to them, apparently, because there is a video of a woman who recorded the phone call with Donald Trump, and she had a good experience with Donald Trump. That was shared last week. That went viral. I think a lot of people have seen it. But now they don't know the difference between one black woman and another black woman because she's black. She has a husband that's in the military, even though her husband was, I believe, Hispanic or a person of color. He wasn't black, but she's black and she got a phone call from Trump. Therefore, this must be Maisha Johnson. That shows you just how ignorant these people really are. They can't tell the difference between two black women. All of this to protect themselves from having to come to terms that they have a president who is a complete man-child. He is incapable of having a bit of empathy and doing anything except for coddling his own insecurities. He's incapable of doing something as simple and beneficial to himself as saying, I did not mean to hurt that young woman. I think America knows I did not intend to hurt that woman. But apparently my words hurt her. And for that, I apologize. And what's ridiculous is that as simple as what I'm saying is, it is that impossible for Donald Trump to say something like that. I mean, really think about that. Any reasonable adult who has had any reasonable adult who has had a healthy relationship in their life at least one healthy relationship in their life knows that at some point you are going to have to apologize for something that you did not intend to do. Any mature, reasonable, mentally healthy adult, not that you can't do this and not have any mental health problems, but people who are in their right state of mind and not dealing with a gross level of narcissism and sociopathy like Donald Trump. He's a sociopath. Any reasonable adult not dealing with those two mental health issues could look at this situation and realize that sometimes as an adult, you should simply apologize because you offended someone and you didn't mean to. And instead of accepting that, we're on week 2, 3 of this. I don't know how long is this? 2 weeks. 2 weeks of this. This just happened today. And for people who are like, oh, this is just a distraction. Okay, yeah. But I think this distraction reveals the depth of Donald Trump's narcissism. It is debilitating. He is not capable of doing his goddamn job because of it. This right here, to me, signals to everyone in America that he is not a healthy adult male. He is very unhealthy mentally. He is suffering from a severe personality disorder. He is suffering from the complete lack of empathy and inability to show any concern for anyone else but his own ego. And we're dragging this out to 3 weeks because we have a man in the White House who's, and this is why his polling is so low, right? This is why his polling is so low. Let me share one other thing that he did today. I don't know how long this one is. It might be too long. I might have to cut it off in the middle of it. But Donald Trump today, he starts meetings. He starts off every meeting with his cabinet members or people who, with his cabinet members, apparently, making them say things that are positive about Donald Trump. Let me see if I can get this one to play. Let's take a listen into him making people say that he's a good person.
Lieutenant Governor, you've done a fantastic job, and I appreciate it. And the people of Texas appreciate it. Actually, the people of the country really appreciate it. So I want to thank you very much.
Well, Mr. President, once again, we thank the President for being here in Texas once again. He continues to show his commitment to helping Texans respond to the disaster of Hurricane Harvey and the flooding events. He has seen firsthand the challenges that Texans face through his multiple trips to Texas. He's seen homes that were destroyed, businesses that were destroyed. He's seen the needs that we have. And so the ongoing commitment that he has to ensure that Texans are going to be able to respond and rebuild is essential not just to Texas, but also vital to the United States of America because of the powerful engine for the American economy that Texas provides. So, Mr. President, I applaud you for constantly working with me and the people of the state of Texas to make sure that we recover. Thank you very much.
The response from this administration.
This is the next guy.
Has far exceeded any previous administration.
Okay, I can't listen anymore. I'm sorry, I can't. This is them. They're going. This is in Texas. Governor Abbott and Governor Dan Patrick. They're going one by one to lavish Donald Trump with praise. That's some insecure stuff, man. That's like most people, most healthy adults would at least engage in false humility, where even if they appreciated this kind of thing, even if they relish in this type of thing, they know that it is unbecoming, right? And they would at least say, no, don't talk about me. Let's talk about the people of Texas, but not Donald Trump. He just sits there and eats that shit up. It's like manna from heaven. He loves that shit. That's what he gets off on. And he does this almost everywhere that he goes. He sent out a tweet this morning talking about the meeting that he had with Senate Republicans on yesterday. And he was talking about how it was a love. I shit you not. I'm going to read the exact language of it. He's talking about how it was a love fest. And senators who came out of it said that it really was a session where Donald Trump just bragged on himself. But to Donald Trump, it was a love fest. It's because he, I just want to get to it. Hey, I really just want to get it. It's so nice to be okay. Here's one of it. He said, so nice to be with Senate Republicans today, Republican senators today, multiple standing ovations. Most people are going to, blah, 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 tax cuts. We'll talk about tax cuts in a minute. Here's the one from this morning. He said, the meeting with Republican senators yesterday outside of Flake and Corker, which we'll talk about in a minute, was a love fest with standing ovations and great ideas for the USA. Bruh. Any conservatives that are listening in, if you still support this man, if you are in that 38%, y'all thought I forgot about the poll numbers. No, this is what I'm setting up the entire time. If you are in the 38% of people who still support Donald Trump, you have issues. You are part of the problem. You are not stable yourself. Because I was going to say you're hypocritical and disingenuous, but I won't even say you're those things. I think that you have intellectual deficiencies and there's something wrong with you, right? There's something wrong with your brain. It's not functioning properly because you're unable to see that you all have elected a man who should not be allowed in public, let alone the White House. How in the world are 38% of Americans, which is historically low, right? Which is laughably low, which is why you get cowards like from Jeff Flake, who says, well, I'm not going to run for office, so now I'm going to take this time to attack Donald Trump. I don't think Jeff Flake is a hero. I think he's a coward because he's not staying to fight, number one. But number two, he sure as hell voted for that bill last night that's going to take away your right to join with other American consumers and sue banks who defraud you. Right. So he's no hero just because he comes out against Donald Trump. So Congressman Ted Lieu saying, oh, welcome to the resistance. The hell not. I think not. He is not part of the resistance. Jeff Flake is one of the people we have to resist. So he's so low. Donald Trump is so low in the polling that the Republicans are starting to turn on him. But you have this core constituency that will not turn on Donald Trump no matter what because they are just as crazy as him. Ben, that's ableist language. Please give me another word because I can't really think of another word right now besides they are off their rockers. That's all I can think of. Unfortunately, I apologize. 857-600-0518. I think I have somebody on hold all this time. Let's take this first caller if they're still there. Caller? Nope. Is the call still there? Let's try. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question? Okay, I lost a caller. 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. We're going to talk about the tax breaks that are trying to push through. We're going to talk about the bill tonight that Republicans passed last night that shows you no matter how much Republicans turn against Donald Trump, they still want his policies. They just don't like the way it's packaged. And that's a problem. If you're okay with Donald Trump, if you're okay with his policies and his politics, and you just have a problem with how they're packaged, then you're not really a part of the resistance by any means, by any measure. You're just as bad as Donald Trump, in my opinion. 857-600-0518. I'm getting over to YouTube. I want to see some of the comments in the comment section over on YouTube as well as Facebook to let you all weigh in. In the meantime, as I make this transition, I also want you to go over, and there's an article that I want you to read that outlines what we're going to discuss in terms of RussiaGate and Black Lives Matter. Let's take the caller. The caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben. This is Brianna.
Hey, Brianna. How are you? What's on your mind?
I'm good. I just want to say, this shouldn't be shocking that Trump's this childish, that he's basically doing anything he can just to boost his ego. And when it comes to the quote-unquote courageous Republicans that, are retiring, I don't consider them heroes. I mean,
it's not at all.
They're going to retire. And then you got I don't consider them heroes. I consider them more like cowardly men, like saying, oh, this is our time to shine because we're not going to be in the Senate for any longer.
Right.
And so we're not going to get no we're not going to get a backlash from our constituents, because I bet you they were up for re-election. They would be going up against it now. And another thing is that I'm pretty sure there's a little bit of topic, but it's something to do with the quote-unquote resistance, is that, have you seen, like, the polling for George W. Bush Jr.?
Yeah.
That they are very among Democrats and everything?
Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that. I was trying to block that out of my memory, but yeah.
I just want to say, I'm sorry, but I just want to say, when it comes to that, you're, like, in this whole quote-unquote resistance and some of those resistant people, you're willing to bash people like Nina Turner, Tulsi Gabbard, Ben Jealous, Bernie Sanders, Liz before all of these progressives. You're willing to fight us tooth and nail and bash us, but you're open arms to people like Jeff Flake, George W. Bush, Corker, and all that. I'm like,
absolutely. Brianna, let me hold it there, because you just opened up a can of worms that I have to address. Thanks for the call. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in. 52% of Democrats now approve of George W. Bush? How, Sway? How, why? Listen, this all connects together, right? This shows you, when I talk about how ignorant conservatives are, by the way, I got an invitation. Don't repeat it. Because I don't think he understands what he's getting himself into. I got an invitation to go on Jesse Lee Peterson's show on Newsmax TV. And I'm like, bruh, really? Really? You really want to bring me on your show? I only have one major challenge. I have a major challenge that I have to avoid using some key words while I'm talking to this guy. If you guys don't know who Jesse Lee Peterson is, just don't go now. Go after the show and go Google YouTube Jesse Lee Peterson. He's the reverend, the black guy who says everything Fox News wants to say but can't say because they're white. But he invited me on the show. So anyway, the point is, like, as much as I think conservatives are ignorant and intentionally obtuse and hypocritical and it will insert any other word that you want to describe them there, it blows me the hell away that we have been feeding, and by we, I use collective pronouns sometimes, but it's not we as in you and I. It's the Democratic establishment and their media outlets that are feeding this same level of idiocy in the Democratic circles. There was a time where we could really brag, probably arrogantly so, about being more intellectual and smarter, generally smarter than conservatives. But there's a whole new level of ignorance that has come to the Democratic Party, and it blows me the hell away. If you can justify on any day of the week supporting George W. Bush at 52% of Democrats support George W. Bush, that just shows you that you've allowed your hatred of Donald Trump, which is legitimate, right? Donald Trump, he should go down in history as the most hated man in history, in American history. He is an oaf. He is a buffoon. He's a clown. But you know who's worse? George W. Bush. You know why he's worse? Because he's killed thousands of American troops. But that's not all. How many hundreds of thousands of Iraqi citizens? How many hundreds of thousands of Afghani citizens? How many thousands of lives have been destroyed because that moron wanted to go out there and stretch his legs with the neocon worldview and look for weapons of mass destruction that they knew were not there in the first place. I don't care if he's amiable and if he's lovable and he has charisma. I don't care if he has more empathy than Donald Trump. I don't care if he understands the power of an apology. Hey, George W. Bush should never be rehabilitated. He should always be known as the man that broke the world for an entire generation. But yet we have 52% of Democrats who now see him favorably, which is only the result of their hatred of Donald Trump, which is justified. But can you not walk the fine line of the dark arts of the dark side I mean, without going over to the dark side, can you not walk that fine line and realize that we should give Donald Trump hell every step of every inch of every hour of every day? He deserves the hell that he's getting, but that doesn't mean we're going to like George W. Bush now. People are saying, oh, I'd rather have George W. I would not rather have George W. Bush right now. I'm sorry. You know why? Because George W. Bush broke the Middle East, the entire world. This is not hyperbole, people. I'm trying not to work myself up too much here because I'm chilling and I'm gonna go to sleep after this. But I'm trying not to. But do you realize that there are, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to say it almost every time this conversation comes up, there are children who were born on 9/11 who are almost old enough to fight the war in Iraq that is still going on. And that is because of George W. Bush. And it's being fueled. It's being fueled by this hyper. And this is. I don't want to even finish this sentence because our hyper adversarial posture towards Donald Trump is justified. But the enemy of my enemy is not always my friend. The enemy of my enemy could be George W. Bush. I would take George H.W. Bush because he had enough sense to not go into Baghdad. He actually had enough sense to say we actually need to raise taxes because that's how he ended up losing. I mean, if you're gonna want a loan for a Republican, don't let it be George W. Bush or Ronald Reagan. For the love of God, people, this entire economic paradigm that we're fighting to get away from was started by Ronald Reagan. But you have people who are longing for Ronald fucking Reagan. Get the entire hell out of here. What is wrong with you Democrats? Now I don't have the luxury. I don't have the luxury because sometimes your ignorance is not exposed because you have a greater ignorance in front of you. George W. Bush was the greater ignorance. He was the Donald Trump of 2000 to 2008. He was the dumbest man on the planet. Right. And so it covered up a multitude of sins. It covered up a multiplicity of ignorance in the Democratic Party. Right. And then we had this wonderful speaker and this grand orator by the name of Barack Obama who came through. And that still kind of covered up the amount of ignorance that was in, but you started to see the hypocrisy of Democrats, but you didn't see the ignorance of Democrats until now, where people who spent their entire life's work and energy opposing a man because he was destroying, not just for political reasons, man. We oppose George H.W. Bush because of the things that he did to damage the world that it's going to take an entire generation to recover from. We had legitimate reasons to oppose him, and now some of those same people have a positive view of George W. Bush. What is wrong with you? It is possible. It is very possible because I'm doing it right now. To think that Donald Trump should be impeached, to think that Donald Trump should never have been president, to think that he's going to go down in history as the greatest embarrassment to American history, to American democracy, to democracy in general. I mean, hundreds of years from now, thousands of years from now, when America's no longer around, people are going to look back and look on the experiment of democracy and say, if it was possible for free people to elect an oaf like Donald Trump, maybe we shouldn't actually experiment with democracy. Donald Trump is going to go down as the greatest mistake made by America, and hands down. However, you know who's going to be right after him? Who's going to actually be worse? George W. Bush. Because there's a possibility we'll still be fucking fighting those same fights 100 years from now. And this goes right into the next story. Of Democrats using this Russian narrative, this narrative of Russia, and allowing it to filter over into these narratives that are being peddled by these outlets because they know they can get clicks off of it. They're peddling this narrative that Russia was using racial divisions, and he was sowing racial discord. Vladimir Putin was sowing racial discord, and he did that to undermine the American election. And he did it through supporting the water protectors. He did it through supporting Black Lives Matter. He did it through supporting somebody in Flint, and did it through supporting people and progressives. And all of a sudden, Democrats who have shown themselves not to be the brightest people as they thought, they're not as smart as they thought they were. Now Democrats are saying, whoa, hold up. We've got to take a look at these this Black Lives Matter business, because some of them were trolls, right? Some of them were from Russia. And now you have people who expand that narrative expands, and they're saying shit like, oh, now, we have to take a pause and look back over the last 80 years in the nation. Let's take a look back, nation.com, at the last 80 years of how Russia got involved in sowing discord and racial animus. And now you have people who are like, oh my goodness, if you don't look at these movements with suspicion, now you are giving way to control of Russia because Russia supported the civil rights movement. You big dummy, shut up. Zip it. You are so dumb. You are so stupid. You are so ignorant. Because now you're allowing your hatred of Donald Trump and your need to explain how Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump to transcend over to a general suspicion being levied against all the allies that you need to beat Donald Trump in 2020. But now you're levying that suspicion as a blanket statement against anyone who did not conform to what you wanted them to be, and anyone who had something negative to say about Hillary Clinton. Now, you must have been a Russian troll. Please, oh my God, for the sake of our reputation of being the smarter people in the conversation, could you please STFU and just be quiet? It's better to be ignorant and remain silent than to open your mouth and let everybody know. Whoever said that originally. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question? You got some, yeah, okay, I don't know what all that is, but caller, next caller, 857-600-0518. Caller, this is you. You're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question? All right. Going once. I hear your phone is open. Are you nervous? Going twice. You're gone. All right. 857-600-0518. I'm just disappointed. Not surprised, but I am disappointed. I am disappointed in just how ignorant Democrats are proving themselves to be. How ignorant Democrats are proving themselves to be. In a very dangerous way. It's not even just about them being ignorant. It's about them being ignorant to the detriment of movements, man, to actual people whose careers are being destroyed because of this. Let's take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Hi, my name is Jim. I'm wearing a bit of a tin hat here, but I think that we're going down the same road. I think that this Russia thing is going to wind up with a lot of censorship, especially on social media.
I don't think that's a tin hat. I don't think that's a tin hat unless you're going a whole lot further. Go for it.
Facebook is releasing. I think Facebook and Twitter are going to start limiting movements that are being spread through social media. That's where everything starts. Mm-hmm. And they're trying, like in certain countries, they're trying a new feed in Facebook, like trying to separate news from posts. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of publishers are worried about because it's actually starting to affect the views that they're getting. And if this gets implemented out, it might, hurt a lot of people. And in Twitter, a lot of people now that I've noticed that are on the left are getting like 12-hour bans. Yeah. Having to put more information in. So I think like what they're trying to do is they're trying to give a reason why we shouldn't let people talk. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't let all these Black Lives Matter people talk. We should let certain ones of them talk. Yeah. Or we should only let certain people from No Dapple talk. Yeah. Or only certain people from Flint. No. And this could get dangerous. This can get dangerous because this is how the whole growth. That's how we've had the whole ground roots movement. It's become socialized. And if they cut that off, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see a tinfoil hat on your head whatsoever. That's actually happening. Thanks for the call, 857-600-0518. That's actually happening. I'm surprised I haven't got suspended. I might be suspended by the time I get back online, because I roasted the hell out of one dude. I don't even know who he was, but he said something so goddamn stupid. I had to roast his ass, so I might be suspended for a couple of hours when I get back online. But you know, you have to tread so carefully, especially with people with blue checks. You know, that's why they'll never give me a blue check, because I'll be right there. If they gave me a blue check, I would be roasting the hell out of everyone from Jonathan Capehart down to Donald Trump. I don't give a shit. I would be lighting their asses up. But you have to tread so carefully around blue check marks, because they're creating a hierarchy, a social order where certain people can say horrible things and other people can't. If you got a blue check, you can say what you want to say, right? And then that's now trickling down to becoming the silencing of really, you know, it has happened. I won't say that it's widespread, but they have blocked people, and they called them Russian trolls when they weren't. We talked about that on Monday. Charlie Peach at Politics Peach. She was used to be, you know, I figured she got suspended because she was so crass. You know, she'll just go out there and say anything to everybody. When I found out she was suspended, I'm like, that's probably about right. That sounds about right. Because Charlie just say whatever the hell she wants to say and just argues with everybody, and it doesn't matter. But she come to find out, she wrote an article on Medium that you guys should check out. I was labeled a Russian troll on Twitter, and what do I do now? Or what do I do next? And come to find out that through connections at Twitter, that she had been lumped together with a collection of Russian, quote unquote, Russian trolls. And so the question becomes, how many people actually have been labeled as Russian trolls when in actuality they just said things that are disagreeable to the neoliberal establishment, right? And so I don't think that is widespread. But the fact that it has happened and she has no means of redress, there's nothing she could do about it, and that's just it. She can't even, they've blocked, like, I've been suspended before. I've had 2 accounts suspended before, and because, you know, I'm not always the nicest person on Twitter, but I've had 2 accounts suspended before, and I just changed my email address and go create a new account and just start over, right? And I've been pretty good in this last account. I managed to get to 35,000 people without getting, you know, permanently suspended. But she can't even use new email addresses. Her entire IP address has been blocked. At least that's what she tells me. I have no reason not to believe her. I spoke to her directly on the phone. Her entire IP address has been blocked. I mean, they are saying you can't even come to our goddamn site. So I don't think you're wearing a tinfoil hat, because I've seen it happen. The question is, how widespread will it get? Hopefully it doesn't get any more widespread than what it already is. But now, I mean, even they have soft censorship, right? On YouTube, like, we've been fighting this for the last 1.5, 2 years, where YouTube has been blacklisting videos and you can't get any revenues from it. So you go from making enough to live on to making, you know, you got to go get a second and third job, right? Because you talk about issues like this, because you talk about foreign policy, you talk about American imperialism, and they flag it and they won't monetize it. And so that's another way that they engage in censorship. And what it has done is, you're absolutely right, is that the biggest challenge to American imperialism, in a way, I don't think it's a true challenge in the sense that we can overthrow American imperialism. I don't want to create that fantasy. But the biggest challenge to it is the ability for us to organize online. The biggest challenge, I think, is an existential threat to the two-party system is the ability to organize online, right? And if you silence some key voices, people with significant enough platforms, then, well, you can essentially cut the resistance off, not the corporate resistance, but the real resistance, the revolution. You can cut it off at the neck, at the head. 857-600-0518. We're an hour early tonight because Noah Changa is going to be streaming live at 9 p.m. Wednesday nights is her night at 9 p.m. So make sure you stay tuned in. I do believe it's going to stream on multiple channels, my channel as well as her channel. So if you don't see her on my channel, go over to her channel, The Way with the Noah, and check her out right at 9 p.m. I'm going to jump in the comment sections here across multiple platforms and see what you all are talking about. My chat in Facebook, and my chat in YouTube rather, looks as though that it is no longer active, so I'm not sure what's going on Facebook, if that's on YouTube, rather, if that's me, or if you guys just don't have anything to talk about on YouTube. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in. I forgot the last topic. What was the last topic? Hang on, let me go to YouTube. The Laffer curve. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I have enough energy to talk about that, because that's the crux of the entire Republican Party's. Yeah, I do have the energy to talk about it. I do. You guys just went quiet. Okay, you guys really went quiet. I've never seen YouTube go quiet like that. All right. Usually guys at least are arguing with each other. But the last thing that I wanted to talk about, and I have 15 minutes to talk about it. Despite everything that I've just said, we are engaged. We're locked in a fight. I actually heard Nancy Pelosi say this, and I think that she's right. This tax plan that the Republican Party is getting ready to ram down our throats, it's economic Armageddon. It's trying to redo what Ronald Reagan did in the 80s and do even more, go above and beyond what Ronald Reagan did. They're seeking to cut corporate taxes from 35% to, I believe, 20%, so 15% there. They're seeking to flatten the base, flatten the brackets, and broaden the base, I believe is the exact phrase. And they are going to create deficits that are going to make everything else we've done before look like tiddlywinks. I'm not too concerned about the deficits, because I think Democrats should learn that deficits actually really don't matter. Not that much. Our debt to GDP ratio does matter, which is affected obviously by the deficit. Yeah, I get that. But Republicans have shown that deficits don't matter to them. And what always inevitably happens is that when a Republican gets in and they behave in a fashion in which they don't care about deficits, the way Democrats try to prove that they're better economically is by being the actual deficit hawks. And so what's going to happen and I'm going on a tangent, but it's an important tangent, is what's going to happen is that if we continue to use the argument that deficits are bad, while Republicans are doing whatever the hell they want to do, increasing the deficits, then you're going to get a Democrat that gets into office who tries to prove that they're fiscally conservative, and they're going to make cuts to programs that we need to reduce the deficit, right? All the while, Republicans are going to shift gears and say, oh, Democrats don't care about the deficit. If the Democrats really cared about the deficits, then they would cut this. They would cut that social safety net. They would cut Medicare. They would cut Medicaid, right? So it becomes a race to the bottom. And it's a game that the Democrats can never win, because they're always going to be trying to prove that they are fiscally conservative, while every time Republicans get in office, they don't give a damn about fiscal conservatism. They don't care about deficits. They will wage an entire war on a credit card and then let the bill come due later. They do not care, right? And there's not a lot of evidence that suggests that if you get hold of the deficit, that you're going to stimulate economic growth somehow in the future. There's not a lot of empirical evidence to demonstrate that. And if there is, somebody show me, because I've been looking. So I disagree with the argument that we should be concerned with deficits and use that as a means of outright attacking Republicans, unless we say, and honestly, America's so goddamn stupid. We can't even use nuanced arguments. But the real argument that we should argue here is Republicans are getting ready to show you that deficits don't matter, and that they are okay with deficits so long as it's given to the rich and to the wealthy. They are okay with welfare so long as it's corporate welfare. They're okay with running huge deficits so long as that money goes to rich people and not poor people. And then show them all these years, Republicans have been running deficits, and that money has been going to rich people and has done nothing for the economy. But if we run these deficits and finance these programs and finance these safety net programs and finance all this, that's going to stimulate the economy, because it's going to go to the poor and the middle class. And see, because that's not short enough, right? That's not short enough. That actually makes people have to think. And because we say things that make people have to think, Republicans get to just cut taxes. And they do it based on this one simple policy, this one simple concept, rather, that is actually wrong. And that saying is, if we cut taxes, we're going to stimulate economic growth. That's religion to them. If we cut taxes, we're going to stimulate economic growth, and we're going to raise more, and we won't run deficits. And actually, it's shorter. If we cut taxes, we're going to stimulate economic growth, and it's going to pay for the tax cuts. That's their talking point. That has been their talking point since Ronald Reagan. And it was brought to Ronald Reagan by Arthur Laffer, the Laffer curve. And it has never been proven in empirical studies nor in practice. Ronald Reagan, and the only example they have is the boom that we saw after Ronald Reagan, but causation, correlation is not causation, right? Right? You just because they happen at the same time, because here's two other data points, right? Two other data points is that 2001 and 2003, when George W. Bush cut taxes, we didn't see nearly enough economic growth to pay for the deficits that came as a result of it. But in 1993, when Bill Clinton raised taxes, we saw an economic boom that rivaled that of Ronald Reagan's economic boom. So there is no clear evidence, no clear empirical evidence, nor is there there are no clear economic studies, empirical studies that would demonstrate it through models, nor is there empirical evidence in terms of actual case studies that we can look at and say that every time you cut taxes, you stimulate economic growth. And this is what drives me crazy about this. Like, Bernie Sanders was in a debate with Eddie Monster. What's that man's name? Ted Cruz last week. He was in a debate with Ted Cruz last week, and he did not really nail. Bernie Sanders didn't really nail the problem with Ted Cruz's argument. And I want to. He really could have just nailed that dude to the cross, right? To the economic cross of neoliberalism and the Laffer curve. Because here's a question that you have to ask. At what point then, Ted? At what point Republicans will lowering taxes no longer stimulate economic growth? Ask them that question. Right? Because they say it as a statement of faith. If it's a statement of faith that all you have to do is cut taxes and you're going to stimulate economic growth. Cut taxes, stimulate. At what point? Is there any point? Because the obvious answer is there is a point where you're going to cut taxes and you're not going to get any more economic growth. You can't. What are you going to do? What are you going to do then, right? You're going to get to 0% tax rate. Do you still expect to be able to cut taxes and get more economic growth out of that? In that case, then the government shouldn't even charge taxes. The government should just print money and pay everybody, right? Negative tax rates. And so it's this religion around the Laffer curve that is a false religion, and they know it is, right? So it's not as though we have to prove it to them because they know it's voodoo economics. What we have to do is show that the things that you're going to lose, dummies, Republicans, the things that you're going to lose is healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, any social safety net that you ever depended on. And don't act like you don't use food stamps, because you do. Owsley, Kentucky, 95% Republican, 95% white, has the greatest percentage of consumption of SNAP benefits in the entire country. You white Republicans know you need food stamps, poor asses, and you want to act like you don't need a safety net. But you're gonna champion this tax policy by Donald Trump because you bought into it that if you cut taxes, you're going to stimulate economic growth. Well, Sway, even if that was true, what economic growth are you going to stimulate? Because you don't even make enough money to pay taxes. I don't think, I hate preaching to the choir sometimes. I know you guys know this. But this is why you need to become a patron. I'm sorry. This is why you need to become a patron. Because I need to grow my platform a lot larger. I need to be able to say this to a bigger audience. Because there's stuff that they're not saying on MSNBC that I don't think it's in. See, some people are going to say, Ben, they just don't say it because they're part of the system. And don't always believe that, right? That's an excuse to make your enemies seem a lot more intelligent than they are, or the people who should be replaced. They may not be your enemy, but they are leaders, and they're the misleadership class. They're not as smart as you think that they are. I think that they honestly have not thought some of these arguments through, and they have simply bought into some of the things that they've been hearing. They don't even realize that they've been propagandized so much. I mean, case in point, Bernie Sanders wasn't even able to cut into that argument to expose the fallacy of that argument, right? He wasn't even able to pull up the fact that George W. Bush lowered taxes, and we saw anemic economic growth. He didn't point that out. He didn't point out the fact that Bill Clinton raised taxes in '93, and we saw tremendous economic growth. And you know Bernie Sanders ain't bought and paid for. So I think that we honestly have to get a better breed of politician. We're going to need, what did the Joker say? We're going to need a better breed of criminals around here, right? Right? We're going to need a better breed of politician, a better breed of commentators, of commentary, because they are really basing their knowledge. I don't even know what they're basing it on. Well, I mean, what books are you reading? What university do you? Well, they went to Harvard School of Business. They went to all of these institutions that teach the same Chicago School of Economic Theory that never allows you to actually challenge that. Hell, it's the same, but it's the same goddamn school. That I had the same education in terms of the theory. The theory has been trickled down literally from all the Ivy League schools to all the average Joe schools like I went to. Like, we learned the same lessons that if you cut taxes, you're going to stimulate economic growth. But if you look at the curve, you're going to realize there's going to be a point where you can't cut taxes anymore. Is that still going to be your answer? Sway. And because they can't expose the fallacious nature of some of these basic ass arguments, we are still arguing the same thing 30 years. How old am I? I'm damn near 40, right? I think I'm 36. I lost track. I'm 37. And they've been arguing the same thing since Ronald Reagan, since 1981. I mean, the Democratic, the DNC, everybody's like, well, Ben, they're all bought and paid for by corporate. No, not all of them. Because what that does is that allows you to just make enemies of them and say that they are the target. But you know what? I mean, I look at the Green Party economic platform, and I've actually talked to some Green Party candidates, and I've talked to people, and some of their solutions sound exactly like the solution of the Democratic Party economically, and they really don't have any answers to this basic false religion of Laffer economics, trickle-down economic theory. If you cut taxes, you stimulate economic growth. But we saw that wasn't true during the credit crunch, right? Because the idea is if companies have more disposable income, and disposable income is enough, we'll leave it there, right? If companies have more disposable income, then they're automatically going to invest, which is going to create more jobs, and it's going to stimulate economic growth. But that's never been the case, right? Because there's a group of people who, when they get money, they do spend that money. And then there's another group who gets money and they hoard that, and they hoard it like cash, right? Literally, they sit on it because they've consumed everything that they need to consume. They've invested everything that they're willing to invest. They weren't making decisions based on tax rates whether or not they were going to invest. They wanted to make some money. They were going to invest, and now we've given them even more money. We've given them even more money. You know what they do? That group of people, the wealthiest, they sit on it. They don't cycle it through the economy. They don't spend it. They don't invest it. They sit on it. And that's what happened in the credit crunch. The companies had $2 trillion. $2 trillion that they could have loosened up in order to stimulate the economy. But they didn't. They sat on it because it was more profitable for them to sit on their revenue, on their profits, than it was for them to invest it. But then there's an entirely different group of people that if you put $100 in that person's hand, they're going to spend that $100, which absolutely is the driver of our economy. Our economy, I believe, 75% consumer economy. If you put money in the middle class's hand, there are going to be more demand for jobs because we're going to go out there and spend it. You know why? Not because we just want to, but because we have to. Because we're living paycheck to paycheck, because we don't make enough money to actually keep anything. So if the government put $10,000 in the hand of every household, of every middle class household in the country, every bit of that $10,000 will be spent. You know why? Because we're still catching up on bills. Because that thing that we had to buy that we haven't bought, that's that treatment that we had to pay for, we haven't paid for yet, right? It's a car we haven't been riding on busted struts for the last 2 years. God damn it. That's why I love, I'm telling my business now, right? Telling my business now. We finally got a new car, but I got a second car that we rode on busted struts for 2 goddamn years. You know why? Because we didn't have any extra money to get a $1,600 job. You put a $10,000 into the hand of the middle class, boom, boom, boom. That's going to be spent. You put $10,000 into the hand of the wealthiest, it don't mean nothing to them. They're going to sit on it. Now, you tell me, Ted Cruz, who's going to really drive economic growth? The middle class, the working class, giving money to them, and they're going to go out there and spend it. And when I go to the car dealership, or when I go to the automotive center and they fix my car, that's a demand. That's a new job that I just created. If me and 100 other people go into that same place, they're going to have to hire new people. That's economic drivers right there. That's economic growth. And yet we are still arguing the same ridiculous false religion of, well, if you just cut taxes, then we're going to stimulate the economy. Dumbasses. John Hill says, Ben, you're being naive. Bernie is not that good at debating. Well, that's why we need a better breed of politician. We need a better breed of debaters. It's time for a new generation to get out there and give these motherfuckers hell. Damn it. I can't be your politician because I cuss too much. But damn it, you get somebody else who got the pedigree and look good and everything else. They nice and tall and they all slim and they all that good stuff. Get them so long as they can keep it real and they actually understand. I mean, somebody out there, there's got to be somebody out there who looks the part, who has the pedigree and actually has this ability to do economic jujitsu with these, debating jujitsu with these people. And then just leave the commentating stuff up to us. Those of us who look good, on the radio, leave that to us. But you gotta, you guys, and I'm not saying this for you to just become a patron, but goddamn it, go over there and become a patron. Patreon.com/the BPD show. Because unless we get words like this out, then we're going to be arguing the same thing in 30 years. And at that point, I ain't even gonna care. I'm not even gonna care. If we still arguing all you gotta do is cut taxes and you stimulate the economy. If we're still saying that in 30 years, then I'm gonna be somewhere on somebody's boat, smoking a cigar, fishing. That's what I'm gonna do. So in other words, it's up to you guys. It's up to all of us. We all have to do our part, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think I'm done for the night. I'm over time. Go over there to Noah Chonga's channel. I'm done. I'm getting out of here. I'll see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.